Want more podcast fandom in your ear holes? Of course you do. And so it's a good thing for you that we are back beginning all new coverage of some of your favorite shows. And you can still head over to patreon.com/podcastfandom to become a premium subscriber for access to our coverage of shows like Westworld, WandaVision, Loki, Attack on Titan, The Legend of Korra, and more. Also, if you are on Clubhouse, look up our club, Podcast Fandom, where we talk about shows like The Walking Dead and WandaVision. It's so much fun because you guys get to listen live as we discuss TV shows and then come up on stage to ask your questions and share your thoughts. It's a lot of fun. Oh, and we also host game nights there, so make sure you join and follow us. And now, get into this free shit. Hey guys, welcome to Podcast Fandom, the official podcast for ProjectFandom.com. I'm your host, Nina.
And I'm Donald.
And we are back to discuss The Walking Dead for the very last time, Donnie.
Yep.
No more Walking Dead. Done. 11 seasons. I don't even know the episode count. It's been a lot. Actually, no, that can't be right. Because I feel like they call this episode, let's see. I have the episode. Oh, yeah. No, that's definitely not right. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how many episodes it's been in total. I bet IMDb has it. But we have covered almost the entire series, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we stopped for a while, and then we came back this season. Even though I stopped watching on a weekly basis for a short time, I really feel like it was basically during the pandemic. Do you know? Like, I feel like during that time, there was like I think I stopped during that time, and I also kind of started during that time. And technically, we're still in a pandemic. People, don't let people tell you otherwise. But it's just kind of foggy. I definitely think the show got better from what I thought was a bit strayed off the path of greatness that the show used to be on. Was happy to go back, though. And you know me, I'm going to watch a series finale. Like, I don't know what it is, if it's a show. There are some shows that I've never watched, but like, I will, like, other people in our group, let's say, are watching, and they'll put up a thread, and if it's like a series finale, I'll just be like, oh, tell me what happened, or I'll put it on, because I just have a thing for the ending of things, I guess. I was overall quite pleased with this in terms of, like, the way things happened. I'd still, though, wish that things like Michonne and Rick leaving and Carl dying, like, I wish that stuff never happened.
Right.
That was kind of like the beginning of the end for me with this show. But overall, I was okay with this finale. There was one thing I don't like at all. I think you know. I think it's probably the same thing. The one death that, yeah. But the episode, just so that we are official, it is season 11, episode 24, I believe, right? And it's titled Rest in Peace. Mm-hmm. So what did you think?
I liked it. I mean, I enjoyed the whole finale. I know I was anticipating Rick and Michonne's return, but then as I thought about it, especially what they showed us, and then I thought about it, I was like, okay, their show is just a limited series. Mm-hmm. And their show has to end with them getting a kid. So if it doesn't, then I'd be pissed off. But that's how they need to end that show, to end that story, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I'm good with them not showing them return to the town and stuff like that. I felt like some of the other stuff didn't really set up the spinoffs too much, so that's kind of confusing. I guess hopefully the spinoffs explain like make sense in that sense.
I wonder if it's because I'm sure they know, but like with Daryl's.
Wait until you hear what.
Oh, I'm sorry. This video just started playing. My bad. Sorry, it was somebody's video washing your daughter's hair. What was I going to say? Oh, in some ways they did though, because Daryl just went off.
Right, and that makes sense.
Yeah, and I have a feeling like that's probably the last time they see Daryl, right? Because we know how his show begins. In case you don't know, apparently the premise is that he wakes up in Paris with no idea how he got there. He knows who he is, though, right?
I don't know.
It's not like amnesia. He just doesn't. He knows who he is. He just
I think
doesn't
it's
know
just
how he got
short-term amnesia.
And then Maggie's and Negan's.
That was weird to me because just the way Negan left, it didn't. Like, it seemed like, okay, yeah, we're friends now, but he just
Not
left.
friends. But I do think that one of the last times we saw Maggie was her saying something like, I want to talk about the future and like going out to find people. So I think that would explain how she and Negan end up in New York.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think. Yeah, and I think that's it, right? The other shows were shows that were already, like Fear the Walking Dead.
Right.
That's already established. Oh, and I don't know if you caught it, because I think we talked about this on the last podcast, but in that little montage of them talking about this expanded Walking Dead universe, and they teased the new shows, when they showed the clips of Fear the Walking Dead, the mother is back.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, I was like, I could have sworn she got like shot or stabbed or something, but again, I don't remember enough about that show, and I don't know that I ever care enough to go back to get caught up, but I might be tempted to like tune in just to see how the fuck they're pulling that off. But yeah, I do think but I get it. It wasn't like, I think they set up stuff as best they could without.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because some of those shows are like early days, and I would imagine you don't want to put something in this show that can't be changed later, if that makes sense. Right. You know?
I'm really curious to see how it would have ended if Carol would have agreed to do that show with Daryl. Like because I'm assuming the show would have been different. It wouldn't have been him in Paris with amnesia if it was Carol.
No, see, that's the thing. I think there's a difference. I think we're saying two different things. He wakes up in Paris with no idea how he got there, but that doesn't mean he has amnesia to who he is.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah. But originally it was supposed to be him and Carol's show. And so I'm just curious how this would have ended if that was the case.
Do you think that's the title? It is, right? Daryl Dixon is the name of the show?
Yes.
If it hadn't been with her, what was it going to be called? Do you think it was Carol and Daryl?
I think it was.
That's stupid. That sounds like a children's show.
But I think the issue, I thought that the original issue was that she didn't do it because they were filming it overseas.
Right.
And she didn't want to be overseas.
Right. That's what yes. And fans who are toxic as fuck blamed his wife.
Yeah.
Because you always got to blame a woman. So are you ready to talk about the details? So the way I want to...
Did you see what I put on your wall last night? In regards to that, what you just said.
Oh, yes. That when men are asked to go somewhere and they say, let me check with my wife, it's not about needing permission. It's like, no, I'm just going to blame her because I don't want to go. But, it's funny. I thought about that later today. Later after I saw it, it popped in my head again. And I was like, that actually works both ways because I do the same thing. Yep. When people so I was like, let me check with Donnie. Yep. Because that basically means that I don't want to say yes, but I'm going to need some time to say no. And then I'm going to blame Donnie. Be like, nope, Donnie said we're busy or we don't have the money or something. Okay. So the way I want to talk about this is by like events and then by characters. It was a 90-minute finale. And it kicks off kind of where we left off in that we see Judith and Daryl apparently made it into the clinic, into the hospital, and she wakes up on a gurney, and Daryl's like knocked out on the floor. But we never found out why that was, right?
No, but he had a black eye and everything.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck was up with that.
Well, you heard, I don't know if you saw in the chat, somebody said that he actually that's a real black eye. He got
yeah, I heard, yeah.
So it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
they had to write it
They
in
had
there.
to do, yeah. So she wakes up and she's kind of groggy and she sees their walkers approaching the clinic and she locks the doors, like just in time, or they'd have been dead.
Yeah.
And then she passes out as well. And then the crew that's outside, they immediately kill Jules.
Yep.
Which was Luke's girlfriend, the musician, his girlfriend.
Yep.
And then he gets bitten, and then he eventually dies inside.
Yep.
This was sad only because of the actresses around him. I'm just going to be honest. Because this is not a character we saw a lot of. We've seen way more of them than him, and they were acting their asses off in their grief in this scene. That's what made it sad to me. Right. Not that it was Luke. Poor Luke. But yeah, they had to cut off his leg and it wasn't good enough. He ends up dying from the blood loss. And then Daryl gives Judith a blood transfusion.
As you did.
Listen. It was so funny because he was starting to do it and Carol was like, do you know your blood type? And he was like, it's universal because Merle used to make me sell my blood as a kid for money. And I was just like... I was cracking up because I really thought he wasn't going to know that blood types have to match.
And that means, what, is that O negative? That's universal?
Yeah, I think O negative is the universal.
Like, I couldn't even, I don't even know my fucking blood type.
Neither do
I see this shit happen in shows, and I'm like,
yeah.
I could not tell you my fucking blood type.
I did, but I forgot. Like, I think after having Jack or Kaylee, one of the times, I knew one of the kids, and I don't remember either right now.
Like, how would you even know? Just ask a doctor.
There's a test, like, and I think because I think this was like a plot device in some TV show where kids were in class, like science class, and they were getting their blood types. So they had a little thing where they would prick their finger in class, and it was like the lesson was how to know your blood type. And it was like a plot device because I think one of the kids found out because of that one of their parents wasn't their real parent, or that they were adopted or something because of their blood type. So I don't know if that's really a thing. It sounds like it could be, like in some, you know how you dissect a fetal pig, which is what I did in junior high school, or dissect a frog in science class. I can see that being a thing in biology or something, but yeah, I think that you would have to get a blood test at the hospital to find out. In Korea, people know their blood types. I think because they believe that is, you know, just like some people believe like your astrological sign tells you about your personality, if that makes sense, and whether or not people are compatible. They feel that way about blood type. So a lot of times when you know, like on dates and people are like, oh, what do you do? Or what's your sign? Or when's your birthday? They ask blood type because people just know. So then they end up having to run from the clinic because the clinic walls, the outer, the front and the sides is all glass. Yeah. And these walkers, these evolved motherfuckers, one has a rock.
Just such breaking the glass.
Oh, we did lose another person, but I have no idea who the fuck she was in the revolving doors.
Yeah.
And you said that reminded you of when we lost, what's his name?
I don't remember. Hates Chris guy.
Yeah, that I still have. I hated that so much. That was Beth's little friend, right? Mm-hmm. She met him at the hospital. So so they end up making a frantic run for it, and they get away with the help of, I'm trying to remember who showed up to help them.
It was everybody. Oh, you mean that showed them outside?
Right. Because they had to radio to the ones that were on the way, because Princess, and who was Princess with when they rescued Mercer?
I don't
because they had him in prison, and then Princess showed up with somebody, his sister, and rescued him. And they were all radioing each other to say, no, the clinic's, because they were going to meet up at the clinic. The clinic wasn't safe. Rosita, Gabe, and Eugene go to the daycare center, I guess, where they were holding the babies. And there's a bunch of walkers just feasting on people inside. Okay, so I have to ask. They weren't eating children, were they?
I don't remember the scene. I'm looking at the scene now where they escaped the ambulance.
I feel
but they already had the kids.
Yeah. I feel like, the walkers were like eating on people when they came in, like body parts that were already dead, people already dead. And I was just like, oh my God, please don't tell me it's children. This show has gone there before, but I was just like, this is, And, but you can hear Coco and the other baby crying in a room, and Coco's in a crib, and it looks like somebody did that on purpose, right? Like they flipped it upside down. Yeah. To make it like a cage so that they would be protected. And that walker was like reaching for that baby. Whew. But Rosita comes in like a G, and they rescue the babies, but then they get pinned down by
She really fucking fought for this baby this episode.
She did. That's what you do. What are you laughing for? That's what you better do. That's what you better do.
Where she fell. She's holding that baby the whole time.
Mm-hmm. That's what you need to do. I need you to fight like that for our kids. Shoot.
I do.
All right. So, but the scene where they get kind of pinned down by the ambulance, they start climbing up this pipe. I'm going to tell you right now, this is where I would have been dead. Because I can't pull my big ass up a pipe like that. Just can't do it. Could you climb up a pipe like that?
Yeah.
I don't think I have the upper body strength. I'd have climbed on top of the thing.
Ambulance.
Yes. I could have did that. And any motherfucker that tried to climb up there, one of them evolved motherfuckers would have got his head bashed in. This is where I live now. Right on top of this ambulance until y'all come and get me. But Rosita is a champ. But she falls. And then they do that thing where, like, there was a moment where I was like, holy fuck, they just killed Rosita. Yeah. Because I was like, because it was so much like the Glenn thing that I was like, they wouldn't do that twice, and they wouldn't do it in the finale. Like, it wouldn't be something corny like that. But at the same time, I was like, they're not going to kill that baby. Like, because when she fell on her back, the baby was on her stomach.
On her stomach, yeah.
Yeah. And you notice, like, I think Eugene had another baby. They didn't all have babies, right?
No, just Eugene and her.
And Eugene had his on the back, strapped to his back. And so I thought there was a reason for that. So when she fell that way, I was like, that's the reason. Because they don't have her landing on this baby. And she's probably going to survive. And she did. She just like... It was kind of like, who did that? Do you remember... Was it Tyrese? I know there's a scene from the comic books that I think that they... I feel like they replicated it in the show when they were in the prison. And I think it was Tyrese who was locked in like the gym or something of the prison with a bunch of walkers, and you just thought he was dead. But then it turns out like they bust in there and he had just went ham. And he killed like a bunch of walkers, and he's like covered in. They kind of did that with him too in the... Remember, there was like a scene where I think they went to get medicine when people were sick in the prison, and they were in a car and they had to get out and run, and he was just sitting there, and like you thought he was like overwhelmed, and he just was like swinging, and then he came through the trees, and it's like, oh shit, he's still alive. We lost so many good people on this show. Like, oh, this show, I'm telling you, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not here to shit on it, but it used to be like seasons 2, 3, 4, 5. It was just like must see TV for me. Yes. Oh God, it was so good. Okay. So Rosita climbs up on the thing, and then she does the jump, but then we learn later that she was bitten. Can we talk about that? Mm-hmm. I don't want to talk about it. So I didn't get it. I'm skipping a little bit, but I didn't get it at first because she's like holding her baby and she's just staring at her sleeping baby. And Eugene picked up on it because he started asking her about, like, talking about the future. Like, I can't wait for summer. We could teach her to swim and all this stuff. And he was doing it on purpose. And when he realized she wasn't giving anything, you know, she wasn't biting. She wasn't saying, yeah, you know, he asked. And she was bitten on the back. So there's, like, nothing you can do.
Yep. I just felt like it took way too long for her to turn, but that's just me.
I really want y'all to stop harping on that. So many people keep harping on it, and I'm like, it's like the least unrealistic thing on this show.
I know. But I feel like any other time they've shown people get bitten, they're like, they're just...
Well, no, Carl lasted a day.
That's true.
Carl got bit. Carl lasted a very long time. All right, let me tell y'all something. Y'all gonna fucking stop. And let me go take my ass to that thread to remind y'all. Carl got bitten outside in the woods, saving Sadiq's ass, right? Came home, wrote letters, did handprints with his little baby sister, gathered his shit, still helped people, and they didn't know he was bitten until they were in the sewer. And then he still didn't die the next day. He ended up killing himself, remember? The very next day. So y'all shut up. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it don't. It's The Walking Dead. You know how they do. But I thought I liked it that way. I didn't want her to go quickly, and she deserved that. Did you read the article where she said it was her idea?
Yes.
I get it.
And I guess that from that was how what's her name died in the comic book.
Who?
The blonde.
Andrea,
yeah, that's how she died in the comic book. Because
saving babies.
I think she was like, I thought she made it all the way.
Oh yeah, and I think she ends up getting with Rick in the comic books.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Don't nobody care about Andrea.
I know.
She was so annoying. So what else? Oh, and then I want to talk about Maggie and Negan's, when they all make it to safety, they have to decide what to do about Pamela and, you know, whether or not the Commonwealth is worth saving. Do they have to go deal with her, take her out? And they decide that they're going to get a plan because she's not letting, like, the common folk into what do they call it? The estates. And Negan and Maggie have this great conversation because she catches him about to leave to go kill Pamela.
Right.
And he finally apologizes to her for what he did to Glenn. And this is particularly meaningful because he has never apologized before.
Nope.
Like, even you would think all of this time that they've had encounters since Rick spared him and since she made up her mind, you know, that she wasn't going to kill him. I distinctly remember a conversation where at one point he was like, I've changed, but, like, I think I want to say he had told her at one point, if I had to do it again, I would do the exact same thing.
Right.
So, like, this is huge for him to go from that to, you know, no, I get it now, you know,
right.
What I took from you.
Right.
And later, I like that when it's all over, I like that she tells him, I know that you're trying, but I can't forgive you. Like, because I still see him dying, hear him dying, and hearing you mocking him. And it feels like if he hadn't done it that way, maybe she could have. Does that make sense? Like, yes. If he had just been like, you guys fucked me over. Because, again, I maintain this to this day. I know people, oh, she's a Negan apologist. But it is, he didn't have to do what he did in that way. It was sadistic. It was horrible. I hate that he killed either of them, both of them, Glenn and Abraham. But you got to remember that people keep glossing over the fact that Glenn and the rest of them went and killed people in their sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that. Like, that is a decision that they made. And they decided to do it because they wanted the help of, was it the kingdom?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, we're dealing with this. Or no, Hilltop. That's what it was.
Yeah,
it was Hilltop with Gavin. Right. And it's like, we're dealing with this. If you help us out. They decided to go out there and be hitmen.
Yep.
And I remember, who was he with? Remember, it was, I want to say it was a black person, but I don't remember.
With who
was Glenn with when they went in the room? Because remember, like, the room they went in, it was people sleeping, and it kind of foreshadowed what was going to happen to him, because there were Polaroids on the wall of people who'd gotten their heads bashed in. Because remember, they took pictures after they did that to people. Mm-hmm. They took pictures. And I'm trying to remember who he was with.
Was it the girl from Star Trek? What's her name? If it was I'm trying to remember. She was the only black person on the show at that time. I mean, in the team group, I should say.
Right. Well, no, her and Gabe.
Yeah, but I don't remember. I can't see Gabe doing that.
No. Gabe. Gabe was there because remember,
he was there. That's right.
He was the one who killed the guy trying to get away.
Yeah.
Remember, because they were like, we can't let nobody go and warn their other outposts. And it was a guy like on a motorcycle or something, and Gabe went over there and prayed over him and then killed the guy. So Gabe was there. I forget who he was with, but yeah, I mean, and I remember when that happened thinking, they've made Glenn a murderer. And when you do that to like a good character, like when you have them do something like this, it usually comes back on them.
Yeah.
So I feel like if Negan had said, okay, you guys killed some people on a sleep, I got to kill at least 2 of you right now. Right. And then just put a bullet in each of their heads, it would have been different. I do think the cruelty of it is what she can't get over. Beyond the fact that he did it, right?
Right.
So that's just so interesting to me that they're going to be in a show together. Considering, I mean, I figured we'd have to get to this point because we knew the show was coming. And I think that's a little, how can I say it? It's almost like I wish we didn't know that these shows were coming, because you knew what to expect, if that makes sense. Like, we knew certain people weren't going to die because of the spinoffs. Right. And so you knew at some point they had to come to some sort of uneasy peace or understanding for a spinoff to make sense. But yeah, it's just interesting to me now that they've left it this way. And I wonder how much of like a time jump is going to be.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. It's got to, in my opinion, I think it's got to be at least a year.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it was a year at the end of the show, so it's definitely true. At least that, right? It jumped ahead a year. So what do you think about them not killing Pamela?
I guess, I mean, I get it. Like they were saying, it's more torture for her to not die. Because at the end, it looked like she wanted to kill herself, which would to go to do with arrow on his neck. Yeah. So it's kind of like giving her the Negan treatment. I just, in my opinion, I don't think she deserves the Negan treatment. She should have died. But she's never going to run again. Like, everybody's against her, so she's never going to lead again. So in that sense,
I feel like they put her. She's in whatever prison they have.
Right, and she knows that she's never going to lead again, and that's probably just as bad. These people will never respect her again.
But, it's funny that we called it that we would see Hornsby again.
Yep.
As a walker because of the arrow in his neck.
Yeah, you don't put an arrow in somebody's neck like that and leave it.
Yeah. And they end up, there was like a nice kind of full circle moment for Gabriel, because remember when we met him, it was on his conscience that his congregation had showed up at the church, remember, begging to be let in, and he didn't let them in, and they died. And then he was the one to kind of open the gates and let people in. And I'm a heathen. Who's at the gates of heaven? It's not Gabriel, right? It's Peter. Never mind. I think, right?
I don't know. I'm not
Saint
Sarah.
Peter at the gate. Why? Why Sarah?
Because Sarah knows that shit. I don't know that shit.
Wait till I tell her. Oh my god. So, so he ends up being the one to open the gate, and like even Pamela's people have had enough. You know, they're like, yeah, no, we're not killing any more people, and they let them in, but they have to figure out something to do with the walkers. And I like that. I think it's Mercer who says the variant is it's too dangerous to like lure them away. Did you catch that?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Because we don't know what level of intelligence beyond climbing and using rocks to break glass. Like, if they have any kind of like recall, like they could just come back, you know? So they have to sacrifice the estates. They lead them all in there and then rig it to blow with some in living color. Cult of personality. Yeah.
All the fuel they had.
Yeah. And what did you think of those special effects for that?
I'm looking at it now. It didn't look bad until they some of it looked really good, and it reminded me a lot of, I don't know why, it just had like a Terminator feel to it. Yeah. I kept thinking of like the fucking how they would show the Terminator, how they would, whenever she would glimpse to the future and see the whole thing blow up. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, because it's just like this rolling fire and like all the flesh.
These bodies walking around with fire.
This is actually the second time they did that. They did that at Alexandria once too, remember?
Yeah.
I think it was Daryl showed up with that flamethrower. Rocket launcher, I mean. So they have like Thanksgiving the next day. This was nice, but Rosita is still alive, and she tells Gabe, like she whispers to him what happened. And I like this because you could see Judith watching from across the room and figuring it out. She's so smart. And then Rosita is able to say goodbye to everyone. And Gabe prays over her, and she kisses her daughter goodbye. And then it's Eugene that's sitting there.
With he's ultimately the one that's going to kill her.
Yes.
Which is fucked up. But.
Yeah. Well, technically not killer, because she died.
Right, but it's the
and
one
then he
that
puts
the
yeah. So she
I think that was the saddest part of the whole fucking episode.
Absolutely.
Just her in that bed talking to everybody.
Yes, that was I hate it. But you know what? You have to, when you hear what she said, like, we owe the fans one last heartbreak, I understand that, because as a writer and even as a viewer, I feel like you don't have, like, if this finale ended and the only people we lost were Luke and what's her name?
Right, nobody would give a shit.
Right, yeah. And it's kind of like, all right, because the whole thing with these, especially in a show like this, like the stakes are so high, it just is like, okay, that if it would have felt like a cop out. And again, we knew certain people weren't going to die. They weren't going to kill Carol, Daryl, Negan, or Maggie. Mm-hmm. I just kind of,
they wouldn't kill the kids.
Right. I felt like Aaron and I felt like Zeke wouldn't die. You know, you don't cure his cancer to, you know, right. Like it just felt
Enid
like
just lost a hand. She's not gonna die.
Not Enid. Lydia,
whatever.
Yes, exactly. Her and Aaron, I felt like, okay, they've already lost. Like, yeah. So I get it, and I get what she's saying. Like, it had to be someone you cared about, and so for that, I loved it. Like, I loved that it made me feel something again, especially because this is a show like I walked away from. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it just sucked because it was her. You know.
Yep.
I was like, Eugene is right there.
Eugene, yeah, but I truly don't believe his would have been as emotional or impactful. No. But yeah, I'm so sad because she's always been just a good character since we met her.
Yeah,
she's just been a badass since we met her.
So it flashes forward a year, and there's a nice little memorial for her, and like a wall of all the dead, and she's on it. Rosita Espinosa and Luke and Jules. And we learned that Zeke is the new governor of the Commonwealth, and Mercer's the lieutenant governor. And Eugene has a baby.
Yep.
Aww. And, we kind of already talked about this, but Daryl's going off just out in them streets. Daryl's an outside cat.
Yeah, he is.
He just can't keep his ass in the house.
So, he's like, all right, I saved you guys. I'm out. Peace.
Mm-hmm. Negan returns the watch that, it was a compass.
Compass, yeah.
That Judith had given him. And then we get the tease of Rick and Michonne. So you get that what we saw of Rick, he's writing this letter to his family, like Michonne and the kids, and she's writing to the kids.
Right, they were both doing like message in a bottles thing, like hopefully this finds you type of thing.
But
see, that would have been cool if they found that at that, like the kids found that or something like that. I think that would have been cool.
But you get that this is before what we saw of him was before Michonne found his stuff.
Yes,
because he had that stuff.
Because he was already out. He was escaped from whatever they hadn't captured. Because then they're like, "Oh, Rick,
consignee." Yeah.
But he was in New York, right?
I don't know what the city was, but he threw the bag with the stuff because he didn't have his shoes on.
Right.
And then he had that little iPhone, and all the stuff Michonne found of his was in the bag he threw on that boat.
Right, and then she found the boat wherever they're at in Virginia.
Is that what it was? Where did she find that? She found
it was. She found it. It was on that boat when she went. They went to. She was with the one black guy. They went to go because he's like, "Oh yeah, I know this island's got all this military stuff."
Okay, gotcha.
That's where she found all that.
Right, but I didn't know it was Virginia. It's not Virginia because that's where they are.
Right, but they didn't go far from where they were.
Yes, they did. She got on a fucking boat with that man.
But she went and said her goodbye before she did all that.
Okay, all right.
Like, I felt like she found that stuff, went back, and told Judith and stuff, said, I have got proof, and I'm going to go find Rick.
Okay.
But yeah, wherever she's at, fuck if I know. Like, it looked like, I don't know where the fuck she is.
Where was she riding off into?
It was out in the hills and shit, like out, like, it looked like she was out in the
middle.
Like
Dune.
Like, she looked like she was out in Nebraska or some shit. Rick out there in New York.
But she was riding into like this giant herd.
Yeah. It was just these just no trees, just these valleys. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She's in Oregon.
Shut up.
Rick in New York.
So yeah, that was our finale, and the words that Judith had been trying to get out was something that Rick had told to Michonne that she told to them, which we'd heard in earlier. Is we're the ones who live. And we get this, montage of all the people we've lost as they're writing the letters. And then later with we're the ones who live. We got to see the tiger again, yeah. Shiva. Morgan, that was nice. I'm glad they included Morgan. Yeah, and that was it. That was our show. I remember, it's so funny. I used to not like zombie stuff. Do you remember that? Like, I still really don't. Like, it's just there's certain things, like, people have, like, they draw a line when it comes to, like, their horror. Like, some people don't like stuff about, like, religious horror, like demons and devils and stuff like that. I don't like zombie stuff. And I remember when this show began and our anticipation, like, whether we were going to watch it. And I was like, nope. But then we watched the first episode with Megan. Like, remember, we do threads on Facebook and stuff before we had groups. It was just like on my wall or something. And it was good. And then we were just like all in. We've come a long, long way from that.
I know. It's fucking 11, probably over 11 years ago. Because I feel like I don't know. I know it's been 11 seasons, but for some reason I think it's been drawn out a few times.
It's 12 years.
Yeah.
It debuted on Halloween 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our son was 2.
It's a long time ago.
A long time ago, 12 years. So, which shows are we covering on the podcast, Donnie?
Oh, fuck it. I don't know. I'm doing a lot. I just feel like I'm podcasting.
No, I mean the spinoffs.
Oh, definitely the Rick and Michonne.
Right.
I will watch the other two to see if they're worth podcasting, but definitely Rick and Michonne.
Yeah, I agree.
And it sounded like from what they said, it sounded like, I know they're starting in 2023, but it sounded like they were all going to be premiering at some point in 2023.
Yeah, I have a feeling it might be one of those things where it's one after the other, like their Sunday nights. Yeah. To the point where it could probably take up a whole year. You get what I mean? Like a whole season. Yeah. A whole year of just the Walking Dead universe content. Yeah. Because between those three plus Fear the Walking Dead,
AMC is just gonna be zombies, vampires, werewolves,
and the Walking Dead. That's true. You're absolutely right. Witches, vampires, and zombies. The World Beyond show that's in the future. That's the people. That's like the universe shit that Rick is in. So that jacket he had on with the 3 circles, somebody in our group said that's from the World Beyond.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And that the zombies at that point are already evolved. And that's another thing I'm super looking forward to with these new shows. Like, I'm much more interested in Daryl's show and Negan and Maggie's show, because not just because it's them, obviously, and just curiosity, but the evolutions of yes. That's making those shows way more enticing to watch, just to see what's up with that. Just the mutation of this virus. So yeah. All right. Well, that's it, you guys. We have just wrapped up our coverage of The Walking Dead for the final time. Like we said, we'll be back for the Rick and Michonne limited series, of course, because that's our ship and we want to talk about it. And we'll be checking out the other shows and we'll see if they're worth devoting any time on a weekly basis to talk about. In the meantime, though, in terms of content that we're providing now, if you're a premium member over at patreon.com/podcastfandom, we are covering some stuff specifically for our time travel tier, including The Peripheral, which is over on Amazon Prime, and Devil's Hour. I want to cover, how many episodes of Let the Right One In have you seen?
Oh shit, a lot.
Oh, you suck. Never mind.
I think I watched like most of it.
Because is it good?
Yeah.
I think so too. I watched the first episode and really loved it, and I put it in the poll, and not enough people voted for it. So I don't know if like our time travel folks a lot don't have Showtime. I don't know what the deal is. But everybody voted for the other two, so we're definitely covering those.
Oh shit, yeah. I've watched most. I've only had like 2 episodes left. Well, that's because I think it's still airing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm like on episode 7 or so.
The homie, speaking of which, Kevin Carroll, who we were just talking about, he was the black guy that Michonne went off with, right?
Yes.
He's in it. He was also in The Leftovers. That's my homie. I love me some Kevin Carroll. We got into a debate on Twitter once over a meme I shared. That's my homie. So I was happy to see him turn up in it. I feel like we should just go ahead and cover it as well for time travel folks. Because it's good. And, and then maybe one day, or maybe we'll do, you know what? Here's the thing. I will make it available for time travel folks like early, and then eventually I'll put it up for free because I want people to watch it. Like, I really love that first episode, and everything I hear from people online that are watching it, they say it's really good. Like Kimberly, one of our listeners, Juan. So I've had people tweet me specifically about that show a few times now. So it just sounds too good to pass up. So that will be coming at some point. In terms of anime, Kaylee and I are covering Spy Family and Chainsaw Man, and we're going to be beginning in December. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which came super highly recommended. That's over on Premium. We will be covering the Mayfair Witches in January. It is an extension of the Immortal universe over on AMC. Like Donnie said, they are really settling into their horror, fantasy dramas over on AMC with Interview with the Vampire, which we just finished covering on Premium, and Anne Rice's The Mayfair Witches in January. Kindred begins in a few weeks. I forget what that's on. I want to say FX. So if you have Hulu, I think that's how you would watch that.
Yeah.
And we'll be covering that. We're covering 1899, which is over on Netflix. All of this stuff is premium. And then for free, I'm drawing a blank on what we're covering for free. Oh, God. My brain. You guys, I'm sorry. I do this every week. Ranking of Kings. That's the other anime we're covering with John. And I will be adding some stuff in December. Yeah, so that's it. I hope everybody had a nice and safe holiday weekend. Folks just finished celebrating Thanksgiving. So hopefully you guys were well fed and well loved. And yeah, we will talk to you next time.